Greetings from France to all participants at the Institute for Family Business Conference in Poland. My name is Rania Labaki, and I'm very pleased to share with you insights based on my research and practice on family businesses in times of crisis. First, I would like you to reflect on what makes those family businesses so unique. In addition to the ownership and the business systems which interact in any business, the family system plays an important role, especially in crisis in family businesses. Whether those businesses will be sailing with the wind or against the wind in times of crisis will be in large part determined by the family. In addition to different types of crises that the family business can encounter through its lifetime, such as crises related to the family dynamics and the family health, those businesses are also prone to the current crisis, such as the climate change crisis, the structures of families changing worldwide, the inequalities issues in terms of race and gender, among others, in addition to the recent coronavirus crisis, which had hit economies worldwide, and much more recently, the war in Ukraine. We have witnessed European family businesses initiating different decisions to deal with such a crisis, and especially in terms of support. Swarovski and Hermes, both family businesses, have decided to suspend their activities in Russia. Day-Lewis Pharmacy in the UK has decided to provide medical devices and medicines to the affected areas in Ukraine. IKEA has also stopped its production and its retail activities and provided significant donations based on its foundation to the Ukrainian population. Heineken has also followed by providing significant donations, and a much more smaller business, family business, and France, Chętnie, has also seen initiative by its own employees and staff to facilitate the transport of aid to Ukraine. So these are just a few examples of how European family businesses have been dealing with such crises in terms of support to other countries affected by the war. What can we learn now from family businesses in the face of crisis? How, for instance, shall family businesses in Ukraine deal with such a war and be able to sustain themselves, and how other family businesses also can be inspired when they are affected by this crisis to deal with it. I will look into some examples that I had the opportunities to work on. Crisis in those family businesses, especially those that are century old and manage to navigate several crises over their lifetime, is always an opportunity to build the family business resilience. And according to my studies, resilience in family businesses is multidimensional. It can be financial, social, entrepreneurial, and emotional. And I will be illustrating these, keeping in mind the objective that family businesses set. Actually, they do not only pursue financial value creation, but oftentimes they also look into creating a socio-emotional value. Stated differently, they care about the society, the communities they're embedded in, as well as about the emotional health of the family, the importance of the family reputation, the transgenerational entrepreneurship, as well as other aspects which make sure that the business can be sustained in the family hands over generations. So resilience is built by keeping in mind this very important objective. Now, crisis brings a number of questions that I will be tackling here and relating to those different dimensions of resilience that I just mentioned, which are emotional, financial, entrepreneurial, and social. So the questions are whether and how to maintain the family harmony, whether to and how to innovate the business model, engage in more responsible practices, and sell or not to sell the family business. So I'll start with the maintenance of the family harmony. Many examples exist of family businesses either sold or just that went bankrupt because of family conflicts and dynamics. The Wall Street Journal, for instance, which was sold and no longer part of the bankrupt family, the Steinberg Empire, which collapsed, and the Gucci family business, which is no longer controlled by the family business, are just some examples. Now, depending on the characteristics of the family business, different strategies can help those family businesses maintain this harmony over generations. So family businesses can be of different archetypes. On an axis of degree of interactions, we have those which are balanced. In other words, where the emotional interaction between the family and the business is balanced. And on the other extremes, we have family businesses which are enmeshed. In other words, the emotional flow from the family to the business and from the business to the family is extreme, and the family and the business are almost completely one system. Whatever happens in the business impacts the family. And on the other extreme, we have disengaged family businesses where there's little interaction between the family and the business. So in times of crisis, what is important for those family businesses that stand on the enmeshed or disengaged side is really to work on moving towards the balanced side, because that's how the family business can continue to thrive and strive. And family governance is one interesting intervention strategy that the family business can put in place, whether in terms of family council, in terms of a family charter where family members agree on how to deal with difficult situations. Family governance mechanisms can really be very helpful. So this is one way the family business can really help build its resilience over time from the emotional perspective. I would like you to quote Jacto, which is a family business based in Brazil, which where the head of the family governance, Alessandra Nishimura, shared her testimonial. When a crisis comes, we know that if the family is not in peace, the shareholders are not in peace and cannot solve the business issues. The family makes decisions on behalf of the we rather than the I. So this quote shows the importance of setting up strong governance structures to make sure the family is aligned and comes together and knows how to deal with crisis. The second question relates to the innovation of the family business model. And here I'm looking into an example all the way from Lebanon, which has been going through multi-layered crisis over the past years. And with Ricardo Husri, who is a board member of Rania Husri Group, and who shares his testimonial about how the COVID-19 crisis has shaped up the system and pushed the family business to make significant changes. This crisis was a wake-up call, he says. So we decided to have a more agile structure and processes by creating more efficient plans and organization structure. Through a cross-sharing model of certain areas of expertise, you are able to control the costs on salaries, increase the transparency among our companies, and to come up with a loss-sharing scenario. In addition, and this is a very interesting point, they open to cater their competitors. So crisis can be seen as an opportunity for the family business to reinvent organization processes, launch new products and services, and diversify into new markets. Eki, all the way from India, has engaged more significantly in environmental sustainability innovation. And the second generation member and co-CEO shares with us that the COVID-19 crisis has helped them pursue their growth aspirations, but by thinking on a deeper level about building more sustainable water solutions for the world as the business and the water technologies. So again, here we can see how family businesses can very swiftly reconsider their business model to tackle crisis by seeing it as an opportunity to reinvent themselves or to add another important layer to their business model. When it comes now to crises which are more related to war times, I can also refer to some examples of Sihor and Co. private bankers in the UK, Pole in Belgium, or Bank Hoteng as well, which are all multi-century old businesses. So for instance, Horse Bank and Bank Hoteng has engaged into relocating their premises in times of crisis to make sure that they are still serving their clients. So they were ready to take risks. And also sometimes, let's say for the Horse family, to use female clerks to make sure the activities are sustained during World War II, whereas the men who used to fulfill this role were on duty to defend their country. Pole, for instance, has decided to focus the activities on building new buildings because the business activities were no longer potentially useful during this war time. So in that way, the employees were still able to find a job and to be paid despite the wartime. Another example coming from France relating to the Schneider dynasty, which is a family business which used to be in the iron and steel mill. The family business at that time during World War I, for instance, decided to convert all its efforts for the war. So, for instance, they decided to produce more intensively heavy artillery. And as Marshal Joffre recalls in his memoir, thanks to the Schneider heavy artillery, we were to victory. So family businesses can really play a role in supporting their country's destiny, not only their own destiny during war times. The third point relates to engagement in responsible business practices. Sometimes we ought to think that when family businesses face crisis, perhaps they will put the responsible business practices aside. But this is not the case in family businesses. We can see that the stakeholders remain at the heart of their priority, even in crisis times. So whether we think about the community, the customers, the government, the creditors, these stakeholders are very important. In addition to that, the family businesses that survive over centuries tend to build a model of multi-generational loyalties, which means that, and this is the example here of Bank Hoteng, which I studied, you can see that there are multi-generations of collaborators, partners, clients, and even allies that are still linked to the family over generations. And there is a mutual trust as well. This means that when there is a crisis that hits the family business, those clients, collaborators, partners, and allies are there to support. But at the same time, the family business is also there to support them when they need to. So this is also another interesting model, which is very specific to family businesses and which is very powerful in times of crisis. Here I have a quote from third generation members of Shungasung Enterprises in Reunion and Mayo, Thailand. We focus on our family values, on our employees and our customers. We are lucky enough to be able to share our opinions and experience with family, friends, suppliers, customers, and partners, which helped us to decipher the trends. This quote was retrieved during the COVID-19 pandemic. Van Engen, which is another multi-century-old family business, has also used its history and related to the employees as priorities, and to also inspire them to be able to thrive during this pandemic. I have really used the history to reassure employees and give them peace of mind about the stability of the company in times of crisis and its ability to recover. I spoke to the employees by emphasizing our 360 years of history, the fact that we have survived several wars and pandemics, that we are oriented towards the long term. This resonated with employees despite the uncertainty of the pandemic. So Gerwin Van Eegen, CEO of the 15th generations, has really built on this history to inspire the employees. Again, here we can see the mutual and multi-generational loyalties that are a powerful asset in family business. Last but not least, in times of crisis, shall the family sell or not sell the family business? And at what price? Emotions are very important in these businesses. And here you can find some examples where emotions have played a role in losing the control of the family towards the business. So it's important in terms of what to do to think about how emotions relate to the investment decision of the family business, how different shareholders, members of the family, or sometimes non-family members would feel regret following the decision to sell or not sell their shares. So I invite you here to really think about the weight of emotions in such a decision, and to also account for the differences in perspectives of different family members. While putting all this clearly all together and discussing it openly, the family members know how to proceed in times of crisis and in times of financial difficulties, whether sale is an option or not. Another point that is also useful there is that family businesses tend to have hierarchical financing preferences. Basically, the top preference goes to self-financing, followed by financing through banks, and finally through the financial markets. So family businesses tend to be less indebted and less dependent on the financial market than other businesses, and to have a good cash cushion. This is very helpful in times of crisis, and sometimes they have learned the lesson during past crises. So I invite you also to consider this financing preference and your financing preferences to be able to cope with the crisis now and the future. Another interesting point relates to the dividend policy. Following several studies, family businesses tend to distribute low payout rates. And also in crisis, family members are ready to sacrifice their dividends to be able to sustain the family business. So again, this is a very unique characteristic. And we have the example of Solvay, for instance, where the family shareholders were willing to sacrifice part of the dividends to be able to support during the pandemic the employees' families, and through a special fund which was dedicated to that. Simon Perel, a French company, has also a very interesting experience to share, because the family members decided to support financially the family business during the pandemic. So we can see again those trustworthy relationships playing out. Last but not least, the banks tend also to support more easily family businesses in crisis times, because they know about the history and they have cultivated this trust relationship over time. They know that these family businesses, if they are being supported right now, they're long-term oriented and they will be able to stand the crisis and get over it. To sum it up, a crisis brings a number of questions, and the answers are many. I have provided a few insights into the different answers, but please keep in mind that the answers depends really on your characteristics as a family business. What is your emotional archetype? And also the resilience dimensions that you already have and those that you would like to build: emotional, entrepreneurial, social, and financial. And also keeping in mind that each crisis provides an opportunity, but the opportunity is not only for the people in charge right now, but it's also for the next generation to learn from the senior generation or the managers in charge, and to be better prepared for the crisis ahead. Concluding thought with Rania Labaki, fourth generation board member of HP Group Investments. When we look back at our family history, we can see that it spanned other pandemics, wars, economic depressions, and much more. We have always come out from such challenges with a new direction and new businesses. And today, the family businesses in Ukraine that I had the opportunity to speak to are going into this direction. They're innovating their business models. They're relying on those multi-generational loyalty. They're keeping their business practices responsible. And they're very much willing to support financially those businesses, and the shareholders willing to sacrifice their dividends if needed and support financially those businesses so that they can continue. So on this very optimistic note, I hope that you have learned new things during my presentation, and I wish you a very fruitful conference ahead. Thank you very much.